We're going to talk today about proactive job search. Proactive is the key. Because how do most people do their job search?
Reactive.
Reactive, that's right. I mean, I get people all the time come to me and say, I've been sending out applications for weeks and getting no responses. Yeah, well, that's why you're not getting any responses, because you're just sending out applications and resumes and wasting lots of paper and lots of money on postage and everything else. And that's not the way to do a proactive job search. And in the current conditions that we have, and that's assuming you have no obstacles in your background, because a lot of people do have obstacles, but assuming you have no obstacles in the current environment, you must do a proactive job search. You can't do a reactive job search. It's for a lot of people, it's way less of this and a lot more of that. That's what it comes down to. It's a lot less on the computers. And we teach people the opposite. You can tell, find a job, you got no computers. No, you don't. No, you don't. Depends on the job you look. Well, obviously, most jobs today require computers anyway, but it depends on the job. But, if you go to a website and look for jobs, how's it going? Come on in. Take some material. That's all right. We just lay here. And there's a sign on this too. But does anybody listen to talk radio? There's a commercial very popular now in talk radio. It's put out by the Ad Council, and it's a dialogue between, sounds like a case manager, almost at workforce, and a guy looking for a job. He's an electrician. He's on the internet. You hear him clicking away, and of course they're talking the thing through because it's radio. You can't see them. And she's telling him, type into this website, and then type in what you're looking for. And he mounts the words electrician, so you know what he's doing. And he says, all these for me? And I laugh every time I hear it. There's thousands of jobs just waiting for you to take them. That's right. It's a good thing you logged on today so you can get that job. So he just picks one, and they mentioned the fact that, years ago, people used to get jobs by word of mouth. Doesn't even say it on there. Well, that's still how people get jobs. That's still how people get jobs. In fact, I'm going to make this bold statement. The reason I put my name on the board is this. I always ask people, what kind of letter is that? There's only two. One's a consonant. That must be a
vowel.
A vowel. That's right, a vowel. And I always tell people, when I taught college classes, when I moved down here, I always tell people, just because there's an I at the end of my name doesn't mean I'm in the mafia, because they're going to ask me, that's my next question, right? And I tell them, if you ask me that question, that would be a stupid question if I was in the mafia. That's a dumb question to ask me. Maybe I don't want you to know that, which is ridiculous. And then they say,
and if we knew, you'd have to kill us.
They ask you, right, that's right. They ask me if I'm Italian, and that's where Italians come from, right? Italy?
Right.
Isn't that where Italians come from, Italy? But here's the key to this. When I came here 11 years ago, all my friends in New York said to me, I know you can't tell I'm from New York. I always use that accent as a dramatic effect. I really was born in Concord, Virginia. No, not at all. I grew up down south, South New York. Where I grew up was as south as you can get and still be in New York. I grew up on Long Island by Belmont Racetrack, which I just heard about on the radio recently. And some of the people in Virginia know Belmont because every few years they have the Belmont Stakes, and they announce it even on the local radio here. But anyway, so long story short, the reason I'm telling you that is all my friends in New York said, you'll never get a job there. You'll never get a job where you're moving, because they're going to hear your accent and say, I don't have to give this guy a job. I'm better off giving a job to my friends, my relatives. Why would I give a job to a guy that just got here? Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Good, doing great. Sign in for me. Get some propaganda. How you doing today? Good, doing great, thank you. And I said to them, oh, pish posh, because they've never met a northerner like me. So that's okay, I'll take care of that. And I moved my wife and myself, my 7 kids, and my sister here. So I moved 10 people, 400 miles from where we grew up and where we knew people. And I only knew when I moved here, the only person I knew was the real estate agent. I knew nobody else. Nobody. I didn't come here for a job. I only came here because I looked at the map and I said, let's see, where's going to be the best place to grow my kids up? And it wound up being south of New York, because I hate the winter, so I wasn't going to go north. I love New York. New York's a beautiful state, and it's huge. Buffalo, New York is 200 miles further from Manhattan than Lynchburg is. It's in the same state. Isn't that astounding? So I can walk home from here. This really isn't that far from, it's only 400 miles from New York. I don't want to walk 400 miles, don't get me wrong. But it is relatively close. Closer than Buffalo, New York. Isn't that amazing? But most of New York is a big, empty, depressed kind of depressed because there's no jobs, there's no industry or business. You know, it's hard farming when you're shoveling snow in May and June, right? So, you know, on the mainland. Now, Long Island had the same climate as Lynchburg. It's really not that bad because it's in the middle of the ocean. But long story short, I just picked a good place to grow up my kids, and the only person I knew was the real estate agent. And my next door neighbor came to help me empty the truck. Now, you hear this in Lynchburg all the time. To get a job in Lynchburg, you just gotta know somebody. That's right. And that's what they told me when I moved here. To get a job, and now the natives say it with disdain. Did everybody here grow up here?
No.
No? Okay. Nobody grew up here. Okay. Patricia, you did. Okay. Now you've heard that. I think you and I have talked about this actually. You've heard that a million times, right?
Who you know.
Yeah, it's who you know. Okay.
Right.
So they said that to me, and me being naive and stupid, I'm like, oh, is that it? You mean all I have to do is know people? That's it? I just gotta go out, this is how I get a job? I mean, like I said, it's said with disdain by the natives. So they get a job in Lynchburg, you just gotta know somebody. And I laughed, because I'm like, if you grew up here, you certainly have a support system. I just walked in from outer space. I came from Mars, you know what I'm saying? And who knew me? A wrong accent, wrong religion, wrong last name. So, I mean, all those things working against me. And my neighbor come over, as I was saying before, he came over to help me in the truck. One guy, there's 6 houses in that private street. They all passed by and they did a little wave to me, but nobody stopped and helped me when I was emptying the truck with my wife and the kids, except my next door neighbor. And we talked, and you know, and I put the charm on him, and a week later he walked in my driveway, he knocked on my door and he said, hey, you need work? And I just burst out laughing. I didn't have to look for a job, it looked for me. Because why? And I'll tell you why. This is what comes first, and this is what people don't understand. Is not the job. Everybody gets obsessed with offerings, on the internet, in the newspaper. By time, on Sunday morning when the news in advance comes out and you see that job section, you are one of 5,000 other people that have seen it already. You just set yourself in competition with a whole group of other people. That's not bad. I always tell you, if you get a job that way, I'm going to be celebrating right alongside you. I'm with you. But that shouldn't be 100% of your job search. That should be 10, 20, 15% of it. If we could use statistical ratios of effort, make that 15 to 20% of your job search. And that includes the internet, the best internet site for jobs, by the way, which nobody knows about. Those are 2 O's, DLE.com. Anybody know about this site?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows about it?
I have used it for housing.
Good for
search.
you. Wow, good for you. Do you know? Nobody, ever. I've been doing this for 5, 6 years. They're telling people about that. You're the first person that's ever told me I knew about Google. So you know, it's like Craigslist, right?
Right.
It's a competitor. But and when you get on the site, the first time they're going to try and sell you a dog or a cat, right? That's the first thing you see. You got to go on the left side and look real carefully and scroll down because it's hidden at the bottom, right? You got to scroll down on that page and you'll see that little word jobs. And you'll find the best job search engine on the internet. The best, in my opinion. And you put in, I always use 24501 as a general zip code for the Lynchburg area. And you'll come up with, some days it's been as high as 9,000 jobs within 50 miles of Lynchburg. 9,000, I've seen it that high. Most of the average is 2,500 to 5,000, possibilities. And then of course you go into search bar and you start to pare it down to your experience. You can't, you have to look at 5,000 jobs unless you got nothing better to do for the next 6 weeks. But that's the best side on there for looking for a job. But again, my feeling is only about 20% of your job search. The rest of your job search should be centered around building relationships. And I've seen people squander those relationships too. They'll set. Did you take one of these? You got one. Okay, I didn't know if I didn't have one. They'll set up. They'll talk to somebody and well, they don't have any jobs. And how about this one? If you want to go to Walmart, okay? So Walmart, you can reapply every 60 days. And I ask people this thousands of times. Do you know what the 61st day is? Did you write it down somewhere? And then no. So you don't know that if they don't hire you, you took your one shot at Walmart, and that's it forever. Walmart's not going to hire me. They didn't call me back, so forget that. Do you know every 60 days you can reapply? So somewhere you got to have a notation in your life that says, this is the 61st day, go back again and reapply. Now there's other little secrets to getting a job at Walmart, but that's maybe another story. Maybe I'll tell you that before we leave. But a proactive job search is where I manage the job search. I'm in control of the job search. The world isn't buffeting me around and throwing the job search at me. But remember, move your thinking up. It's no longer about getting a job, it's about developing relationships. Developing relationships. Before we met, Jan and I were just talking. My last job, I worked at the Workforce Center, which was part of CVCC. Well, still is part of CVCC, but I moved on to something else. Deborah, who was director there, there was a job in the paper, and I just walked into the office one day, and I walked into her office and said, hey, how come you didn't tell me you had a job opening? See, that was the kind of relationship we had. And she laughed and said, I didn't know if you'd be interested. Well, yeah, I'm interested. So I sat down and talked to her for 10 minutes. She called up the temp, it was a temp job at the time, but then I ultimately became a CVCC employee. And she called up the temp agency, and she said, I got Steven Monetti in my office. He's coming to your office to fill out the paperwork. He'll be starting here on Monday. I want him to start on Monday. That's how I got the job, because I had a relationship already, you see? I wasn't out just throwing my resume all over. I don't think I even had a resume or anything with me when I walked in that office. I just said to her, how come you didn't tell me you had a job open? And this job that I got now, they called me. They called me. The guy that did the program resigned, so they called me up. The director called me. She said, I always had it in my mind, if he resigned, I'd call you. And I'm like, God, I'm flattered. Flattered. Wrong last name, wrong religion, wrong accent. And I always have 4 or 5 part-time jobs at the same time. Always. I do a program for Campbell County. I work for Interfaith Outreach now. That's the job I went on to. I'm the Progressive Release Director, which is the program in the prisons to help people that have impending release. And then we help them when they come out, too. We help them find housing, a job, and all that good stuff. But suffice to say, and that was a lot of my work, even at Workforce. Many of my clients were felons. And in prior things that I've done that have to do with employment and everything, a lot of the people I work with are felons. So I already have a lot of experience with that. But, like I said, relationships is what's been carrying me along. Campbell County, they called me, too, to do the program there. I do it there as a contract. I didn't call them, they called me up. We'd like to sit down and talk to you about doing an employment program for us. Only 11 years, folks. And I didn't grow up here. Still no other. If you hear somebody with that last name anywhere in this town, guess what? They're related to me.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah, because there's no other people named Monetti here. You know? By the way, that's not an Italian name. That's actually a French name, by the way. But anyway, long story short, so relationships is the key. And when you're going out doing a job search, what do you want to do? You're not looking for offers or opportunities. Okay? You're looking for leads. Again, this is a different way of thinking. I want to raise that up to leads. I'm looking for leads. Some leads are opportunities, but some leads are self-created. I go out and look for them. I bought. It's my Brooklyn heritage, see? I don't even speak right. I brought with me. I put the R in there. I said bought. My mother would be proud. No. My Brooklyn mother would be proud. I brought with me Lynchburg Life. This is a publication by the Chamber of Commerce in Lynchburg. And if you go in and say, I need a case of these, they don't even flinch. They just throw you a case. That's how free they are. They try to get rid of them throughout the years. I've asked for cases, and again, never even flinched. I would just walk out into a case of these things so I can give them to my clients. But look at this. That's a nice magazine. You see it's flat bound, so it's expensive. It's done really well. Beautiful photography. I don't care about that. What I want to do is, if I'm looking for a job, I want to open this puppy up, fold it down the middle, rip this off, this part, and just throw it in the garbage because it's useless to me. But I want this. This is the directory of the 900 chamber members. You see them? And if I'm going to start a proactive job search, that's the place I start.
Did you think that it is in your office?
There's a case right where my chair is. Yeah. They're there. They're still there. I left them there. I knew I could get another case of I left them for you guys. I knew I could get more, Patricia, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So there's a place to start. There's a place to start a job search. Now that's only the chamber members. Not every business. There's 6,000 businesses in Lynchburg. Only 900 are in the chamber. So that leaves you a whole bunch of other stuff, right? There's also the yellow pages. And when I was actually doctoring up the document you have in your hand today, I didn't have a copy from my old stuff. I'm skirting around my office today going, I must have left the folder at home. So I had to doctor one up for you, which is okay. It needs to be updated anyway. But all I did was took out the telephone book and I started to do a make-believe on these names on here. But we'll talk about that in a minute. I'll talk to you about that in a few minutes. Where's the clock here? It's on time. It's right ahead of us. Okay, good. We're good. So, start changing your thinking. And the thinking has to go from jobs, opportunities, that mindset of looking for somebody offering you a job. That mindset of, I got to go on the internet, I got to look at the newspaper. And again, don't throw that away, but make that about 20%. But the 80%, the bigger part of what you do, is developing your own program for doing relationships. And that's what this document's all about. Actually, we can't talk about it now. The front page is a sales pitch. That's what the front page is. A sales pitch for doing the work this way. So you'll see at the top it says, this approach is your sole job search method has several drawbacks. This is doing an opportunity-based one. And it puts you in direct competition. It limits you to advertise jobs. That's why I laugh at that ed council thing about the guy, the electrician guy. Because when she says, in the past, Peter got his jobs by word of mouth. Yeah. Yeah, so why are you throwing him on the internet now? If he already had it down pat that he can get his jobs by word of mouth, why are you throwing him on the internet now? That's not necessary. I mean, it's not necessary to use the internet simply because it exists. And in a place like Lynchburg, 75,000 people, it's very organic. It's still very organic. In fact, I went to some conference in town, I forgot where it was, and one of the HR people in town said to me that they stopped using software even to look for resumes, which I always thought was a fallacy. I think that's stupid anyway. Using software, you definitely lose a lot of good people that way. And you definitely find a lot of people you shouldn't have, you know, in my opinion. So, actually ridiculous. But she said, yeah, we started to read resumes again. Oh, thank God for that. So, very organic process. And I know if you're looking for a minimum wage job, which I doubt anybody in this room is looking for, but let's say you were, you're going to go to a lot of places where they're just going to do one of these. They're going to turn their head and say, you know, apply online. Right? Isn't that what they tell you? You got to apply online. They don't want to talk to you. You got to apply online. I got that. I got that. For a lot of lower end jobs, that's what you have to do. You got to apply online. Got that. But there's a lot more to do with relationships if you have a professional position. Way more. It has more to do with, you know, talking to people comfortably, being confident. What do employers want? They want two things: confidence and optimism. I always tell people, I could do a whole class on retention, how you keep your job. You'll keep it forever. I had to beg to get laid off for 5 years in New York. Imagine telling your boss you want to get fired for 5 years. And they make fun of you too. Oh, that's Steve, he wants to leave. I'd be in executive meetings with I was an accountant for 26 years. And they'd, you know, they introduce each other, go, oh, that's Steve, he wants to leave. And they'd all start laughing. And I'd be over there going, yeah, no, please lay me off. I want to get out of here. So imagine that, because I knew how to keep my job. Even in the face of that, because I had friends tell me, why don't you just mess up, they'll fire you. Oh yeah, that's a good reputational thing, thanks. I said, no, I can't. A, it's not fair to my boss. You know, why should I screw up what he's doing, you know, and then with the hope that he'd lay me off? That just doesn't make any sense. No, if you're a professional, you have integrity all the time. There's no, just because I want to leave the company doesn't mean the company owes me anything, you know what I'm saying, other than my paycheck, right? So character dictates you do the right job no matter what your personal intentions are, right? Wouldn't that make sense to everybody? So, let's see. Let me talk to you about New York for a minute and why this is an advantage here. Let me just tell you why you got to do this. And this is how this works. Now, guess what? One of the first things I told my new boss is I need vacation Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Next time I'm only a part-timer again. And that's on purpose. She wanted to make it a full-time job, and I said, well, if you make it full-time, I'm not coming here. I said, I'm 57 years old in a few weeks, and I'm just done with that. Staying at the same desk 5 days a week, you know, watching the clock tick around and knowing that you're 7 hours closer to being dead. You know what I'm saying? And that's enough for me, thanks, all right? But suffice to say, on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I'm not taking vacation. I'm working with my next door neighbor, the guy that first gave me my first job when I moved here, because I love him dearly. He's 300 feet from my house. It's an easy commute. Getting used to try. I walk 300 feet. Sometimes my sneaker will blow out or something, and I have to take an extra time and, you know, be tardy. But we're going to Abington, Virginia to do work. He's a mill guy. He puts in countertops and cabinets and that kind of stuff. He builds them right in his shop. Right, I look out my swimming pool, and there's John's shop right at the hill next to my house where he fabricates everything. And in the past 11 years, I've probably worked with him maybe a year and a half altogether, about a year and a half. So when he asked if I was going to be free those days, he needed somebody to work with him. He hasn't had work in a long time because that work fluctuates, as you know, right? And so I says, yeah, man, let me see if I can work it out. It is a boost. You know, I don't care about the money, but I'm happy he's going to pay me. But I'm going just because he's just a great guy and I just love working. Imagine an accountant putting up cabinets. Think about that. Isn't that funny, right? But I did a lot of great things since then. I sold cars. I painted houses. That's why I left New York. I was tired of doing the same junk over and over again. So it was very arrogant of me to think I could move 10 people someplace where there was no, you know, no connections for our family. But it all worked out because, like I said, it's stuff I'm telling you here. Now here's Long Island where I grew up. Looks like a fish, which is funny because it's in the ocean. Here's Manhattan. And what's that island called? Anyone know? Another island. What is it?
Staten Island?
Staten Island, that's right. That's Staten Island. But that's the geography. You know New York is made up of 5, they call them boroughs, right? And you think you consider them counties, really. They're kind of small counties. And Manhattan is one. And on Staten Island, that's not the name of the county. There is a county on Staten Island. Do they know what the name of that county is? ironically, the real county name is Richmond. Isn't that fun? Okay, and there's 2 counties on Long Island that belong to New York City. There's Queens, and if you have a queen, you gotta have what?
A king.
A king. Now, what do you and I call Kings County? Brooklyn. That's what we call it. And on the mainland, New York goes up like that. Remember I said Buffalo is 600 miles from Manhattan, right? Goes like this. There's one on the mainland. The last one, the 5th one, is called the Bronx, or actually just Bronx. We don't say the Bronx because there's no such thing as a Bronx, right? There's no singular to that. So, and I grew up in Nassau County, which is not part of New York City, right over the border there. This one's called Suffolk County. And my mother-in-law lives on Montauk Point, which is right here. If you look out, and that's a great thing because she's real far away from me. If you look out going east like that, the next thing you see is Portugal. That's where Long Island is. It's in the middle of the ocean, right? It goes right up in the middle of the ocean. Here's Connecticut, beautiful state. If you've never been there, you really need to go there. It's a beautiful. And Rhode Island, which is a little state, there's an island here called Block Island, which belongs to Rhode Island. But within this is Manhattan, right? 2 hours. Now this is 15 miles, by the way, folks. From here to here is 15 miles where I grew up. It used to take me 2 hours each way. Every day of my life. One day a week in transportation. 20 hours a week. Isn't that amazing? In this area, within 30 miles, you have the highest concentrations of human beings. Except for possibly Mexico City, which is highly populated too. If you and I could make a nickel every time they flush the toilet, we'd be rich in about, a couple of days, actually. Maybe we'd be millionaires in a few days. Maybe not even a few days. Because they got to go at least 3 or 4 times a day. If they just ate food, they got to eat 3 times a day, right? There's about half as many people as there is in the whole country of Canada in that area, about 16 million people on any given day. And only about 5-6 million actually live in New York City. The rest all commute in and out every day. The distance from here to here put me in Oz, basically. It was almost like flying to the Emerald City every day of my life. Anybody familiar with the Sandusky area here? That's kind of the neighborhood I grew in. If you look at Sandusky, that's 60 by 138 foot of property. Nobody knows what the word acre means. There's no acres on Long Island unless you're a millionaire. And that means you only own 1. You only own 1 acre and you're wealthy. Because if you can't get your hands on 2 or 3, that's not going to happen because the land is all locked up. But anyways, expensive, right? $2,000 a month in property taxes per month. Yes, per month. Month. Every 30 days, you're into your house for $2 grand. And that's not the mortgage. The mortgage is another $2,000, $3,000. Expensive place to live. $100,000 a year here is poverty. That's what you make. Could be wealth here, wouldn't it? That's what I was making when I left New York. I aspire to make some of that back again, but probably never will in Virginia. But guess what? I made 100 and spent 110. So, like I said, it sounds like a big deal, but it's not. It's a very expensive place to live. So, well, what do you have here? You got volume. This is what I'm trying to prove to you. So many people, so many needs, so many markets and industries. The yellow pages of Nassau County, where I grew up, is at least 4 inches thick. It would blow your mind. There's nothing you could want to do in your life that's not on Long Island. Nothing. Because Long Island has the exact same population as the whole state of Virginia. 8 million people. Isn't that astounding? It's only 120 by 30 miles. It has the same population as this whole state. And that includes the north part by Washington, D.C. Isn't that astounding? I mean, even Manassas now has, not Manassas, pardon me, Culpeper has a rush hour going to Washington. And that's halfway down 29 to us, isn't it? How many people are trying to move as far away as they can and still access the big city, right? So imagine, and still Long Island has the same population. It's amazing to think about. So volume's on your side, but there's one thing missing there. Anybody ever been to New York City? Okay. You ever go try saying hello to somebody in the street? You walk up to them and say, hey, how's it going today? You know what they're going to answer you? Why do you want to know? That's the answer. And I saw that happen. I mean, if I go back there now, I have to change my behavior patterns. They'll think I'm nuts if I say hello to them, But that's common here. That's why I moved. One of the reasons I picked this place to live. Now, why do they act that way? Because I've had Southerners tell me, oh, they're very rude. No, they're not. They're wary. You're in a place where there's, now, let's just say that 10% of the population is crazy. Well, in Lynchburg, that's 7,000 nuts, right? 75,000 people. Let's be conservative, 7,000. In New York, that's close to 2 million crazies. They're all over the place. So you walk up at home and say, how you doing today? And they're like, crazy, nut. The nut alarm goes off. Why do you want to know? Go home, go away, leave me alone, don't touch me. You know what I'm saying? That's their mentality. Now guess what? I'll tell you a little secret. If you go to New York City with a Southern accent, you will be a celebrity. It's me they don't trust because I have a New York accent. Other New Yorkers is who they don't trust. They love Southerners. You know why? Because you're innocent. They know you're not part of the scam. If they hear your accent, like, oh, thank God, it's not another New Yorker. Oh, my God, this person isn't in on the scam. I could be nice to this person. I swear, and a lot of my friends now said something. That's exactly what happened to me. I said, if you go up there and you talk with a Southern accent, you're going to get free food, free show tickets. You know, they will just shower you with love. Because like, oh, thank God, it's not another New Yorker. If I go up there and they hear my Brooklyn accent, they will not respect me. And they're like, no, don't talk to me. Get out of here. You know, if I say hello. It's pretty funny. It is very funny. And I understand it because I grew up there. I really understand it. So what's our advantage here? If we don't have that advantage, we don't have volume, right? Very few jobs, limited opportunities. But guess what? I got 4 or 5 jobs. You only need one in reality. Get one good full-time job. And you know, when I'm on 460 in the morning and those people all racing around me trying to get into Lynchburg, somebody's going to work. So if they got jobs, you and I can get another one too, can't we? You know what I'm saying? Optimism's got to be the key. You got to be positive about this. And that's what proactive says this in reality. I'm worthy of this. I don't care about walking up and talking to you about a job. And you may be abrupt with me. I'm talking about like a business owner or a manager. That's your problem, not mine. My efforts and my labor is just as worthy as anybody else's. And if you have a business, you hire people. It isn't like you're trying to ask for something really bizarre, you know what I'm saying, something really strange. If you walk up to somebody and talk about employment, that's a professional thing. You need people to run your business. And why is my labor any different than everybody else's? So you got to get past that personal feeling. If somebody's abrupt with you, or they're gruff or nasty, that's their problem, not your problem. That's nothing to do with you. You know, and you don't know what's happened that day. My first interview, and I wish we would talk about interviews because that'd be another hour and I could talk about it. But I just real fast. My first interview, this is what happened. The guy it was a hardware manufacturer based in Norfolk. He rented a room at the Radisson Hotel, which is the Kirkley now on Campbell's Mountain Road. Right? I remember this is 10 years ago. And I walk into the room and I shook his hand. I said hello to him. As soon as he heard my voice, this is what happened. He went like this. Are you from up north? Yes, I grew up in a little town called Elmont, about 20 miles east of Manhattan. Sit down. That was my first interview started that way. Isn't that amazing? Guess what? An hour and a half later, he offered me the job. We could talk about that in the next class. I'll tell you how I made that happen. He got up from the chair and he said, you changed my mind about Yankees. That's almost like saying for a short, fat, ugly guy, your posture's real good. Isn't that kind of compliment? But I understood what he meant. I appreciate it. I said to him, I'm flattered. I really appreciate that. He's, I'm going to hire you. Oh my God. You know, and an hour before that, the guy's like, sit down, shut up, sit down. You know what I'm saying? And my point is this. I don't know if his great-grandpappy was shot by a guy in a blue uniform. You see what I'm saying? I always tease people here. I tell them I'm worse than a Yankee. I'm an immigrant. They don't get the fact that I'm mocking their prejudice. They just don't get it. You know, some people would be like, what's he mean by that? I'm worse than a Yankee. I'm an immigrant. But anyways, volume is what you got up there. What do you and I have here? We got relationships. And like I said, that's what we're going to depend on, is relationships. Your reputation, your integrity are everything. Right? So we're going to go around developing those all the time. And in the job search, yes, granted, you want a job today. I got that. And this takes a lot of time to do this. But it's got to be done. And while you're working, you have to do it. In your job, never let anybody catch you in a bad mood. Never. Like I said, optimism is what people... You know, nobody I work for is ever going to see me in a bad mood. Not going to happen. Not possible. I will not let it happen. Listen to these words and take them to heart. My impression of you is your responsibility. And that starts the day you fill out the application, and you know when it ends? The day you retire. You have to manage that impression all the time. All the time. One of the service providers for educating our clients over at Workforce kicked one of my students out, dismissed them without telling me. She called me up a couple of days later and said, you know they kicked me. What? Why didn't they call me first? This is a federal program. That's federal money I paid you to teach this person. You can't just kick them out without telling me. Granted, I might agree with you they should be dismissed, but I need to know that. So I ran down to, that was Generation Solutions, actually, and I don't mean to put them down. But I ran down there and talked to them and everything, and I was upset. I was gnarly. So I got back to the office, and I told them, I said, listen, here's all I want to know. How much money do I get back, okay? It's a federal program. You're not taking whole tuition. She only went through half the program. And long story short, Deborah came back from lunch. She was the director. And I walked in her office and I says, "You missed something." And I was laughing. She says, "What?" I was angry. And she started laughing. I says, "But you didn't see it, did you? Too bad. You missed it." I was angry for 5 minutes, I told her. So again, what was my point to her? She was never going to see that. Why? Because as a manager, you want the manager to know that they can depend on you, that you're the rock. You're the strongest link in the chain, not the weakest link, right? So again, that goes a long way to building relationships. So, and again, you and I are talking about job search. I got that. That's a very immediate thing. But you need to keep that in mind throughout your entire career. Whatever career you have, whoever you work with, it's always confidence and optimism. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it. Whatever's wrong, we'll do it. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. We'll get it done. I'll get it done. She used to send me notes, and Randall never did, but if he did, he's the new director there, would have done the same thing. She'd send me a note, "I can't go to this webinar or this conference or this meeting. Can one of you guys go?" Send it to all the case managers. And I would immediately, I don't even know what it was, I would write back this word. Done. Done. I don't even know what it is, but I'm going to do it. Because you can depend on me. You see what I'm saying? I want to be the strongest link in the chain. Not that let me tell you something. The Workforce Center, and I say this all the time, has the greatest, and Patricia works in the workforce, they have the greatest employees in Lynchburg, in my opinion. It's just a wonderful place to work. So I wasn't competing with my sidekicks there. I just wanted to support the manager. That's my job. So, and it goes a long way to developing relationships. I know if someone calls Deborah right now and says, "Would you hire Steve again?" She's going to say yes. She can't not. And I know it's a terrible way to speak, but you know what I mean. She can't not want to hire me again because I made myself valuable there. So let's go back to talking about what's on this sheet. So relationships. I'll give you an example of what I mean by relationships, why this is different than New York. So the first week I'm here, 2003, right before Christmas, that's when I moved into my house, no job. I was still on severance from my job in New York. And that's how I was surviving. And I had not started yet with my neighbor. And I'm in Walmart, the one on Woods Road. And I'm in the freezer case section right where the produce is, right, and where the meats are. And if you can imagine this, there was nobody there, me. I looked up that whole thing right down to the deli, and it was just Steve. Because it was like a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. There was nobody in the store. And I lean over into the car, walk into one of the cases, there's a ham. So I lean over and I pick up the ham. And instantly, some old guy just grew out of the tiles. He was just there. And his face is next to me in the freezer case. And he goes like this to me. We're both bending down in the freezer case. Nobody else in the whole part of the store. He has to be right next to me. And he looks at me and goes, "You know how to cook that ham?" And I says, "No." I says, now in New York, I would have said, "Get out of here." That's what I would have said in New York. But in Lynchburg, I'm like, "No, what do you think I should do?" So he goes through this whole, I don't know what he said, because in my mind, I'm laughing hysterically in my head that this whole thing's coming down. And he's going through this whole dissertation on how to cook the ham. I wish I heard it, because maybe it would have been a good recipe. I don't know. But the fact is, he assumed that I was going to be polite to him. You see that? He never had any qualms about him and I starting in the middle of a topic, like as if we were friends for 100 years. You see what I'm saying? That's why I moved here. So when he walked away, and again, he just disappeared, like he, poof, like the Wizard of Oz again. You're like the wizard, poof, he's gone. I turn around, he's gone. I'm like, what the heck? What was that all about? So I get out of the store and I call my wife on my phone. I go, "I love living here. This is great. This is where I belong." I said to her on the phone, "This is exactly where I want to be." And she was laughing on the other end. "You're not going to believe what just happened to me." I told her the whole story about the ham. But see, relationships here are easy. It doesn't mean I'm giving you magic. You can't say abracadabra and get a job. It doesn't work that way. A lot of input from you and I is going to have to happen. So let's talk about the sheet again. Let me bring you back to that sheet. First part again, sales pitch. Now if you go down to the bottom, it tells you why you should do it this way. Provide structure, you can plan your job search schedule, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Prompts you, we got another 25 minutes, good. Prompts you to research employers so that they'll be better fit, you'll be a better fit on future jobs. Makes you the initiator, let's give you an edge of being noticed. You pick who you want to talk to. It's your job to find out where you're going to go. It might possibly open a job for your employer hasn't even advertised. Listen, folks, I do resumes on the side. That's one of my jobs. And I'm good at it, too. That's like a promo. But I put an ad in News in Advance about 4 years ago. It was 1.5 by 2.5. That's how, I don't know if you ever tried to put an ad in the paper, but that's how they divvy up the real estate, as they call it in the paper, right? It was $600. 1.5 by 2.5. So do you think all the jobs from the smaller businesses are being advertised in News in Advance? Who's got $600 every week when a small business to go advertise it in the paper? And if you have a high turnover business, how many 600s could you pop out before you're bankrupt, you know, in a small business? So most of the jobs can't be advertised. They can't be. I know they can put them on the internet for free. I got that. But still in all, a lot of people don't use the internet. I'm talking about businesses will not use the internet. You got a guy that has 3 trucks, and he goes out to put up siding every day. He's one person in that office to take care of his payroll, his human resource issues, the dispatches, answers customer service questions. Guess what? He's not going to put an ad in the paper. That's not going to happen. But that's a valuable job. That person that stays in the office, that's a valuable job. There is a program here, Office Technology, that caters to that particular job in CVCC. So that's a very important job in this area. That's valuable. You have a lot of family businesses, you know, where that person has a talent of some kind, roofing or something. They're not going to sit in the office all day, you know, taking care of paychecks and all that. They want to go out and nail shingles up. That's what they do. That's their thing. So having somebody in the office to do that is very valuable. So look at the rest of this. Puts you in control of job search, develops relationships with employers. As we're talking about, it focuses on dating job search activities. So you're prompted to pursue your follow-up tasks in a timely, efficient manner. Like I said before, with the Walmart thing, do I know when the 61st day is? No, most people don't. Okay, so let me talk about that schedule for a second. This is what's required. Most people never do this or analyze this. And I want you to analyze your family situation. Very important to analyze your spare time. Now, you folks are all working, I'm assuming, here as part-timers. So you have some time. And that must be judiciously meted out. I mean, you know, it's a constant discussion in a family about who does what, when they do it, and it evolves. I have 7 kids. When I moved here 11 years ago, my oldest one just turned 18 the day I emptied the truck. Now he has 2 kids, one on the way, and he's almost 30 years old. I mean, that's a whole different family. My youngest one never lived with his oldest brother. As a cognizant, he's 3 years old. When I kicked the oldest one out of the house, handed him a plastic bag and said, put your stuff in it and tell me where you want to go. I'm done with you. That's enough. Can't take it no more, right? So that's the only one I had to do that for out of 7, so I didn't do too poorly. Still love him, never lost contact with him. He's charming, wonderful, love him dearly, but I can't live with him because he drives me nuts. He came back when he needed a place to live, came back and said, you know what my words to him were? His name's Steven too. I said, Steven, my chest pains just stopped. That's what I said to him. The chest pains that he gave me just stopped. And now you're coming back? No, I don't think so. I don't want the chest pains back. I don't think so. But anyway, long story short, that family's constantly evolving. My wife and I set up our lives so that I have a day job and she has second shift. She actually works at that Walmart on Woods Road now for the past 10 years. So, and that's because we chose to homeschool our kids. Now the youngest one's going to Rustburg High School starting in next few weeks, in August. And that's it. Mom and Dad can get their life back. So now she's thinking about getting a first shift job like me so we can actually live like normal human beings, you know, for the first time in 11 years. She never worked in New York. So when she goes to Woods Road now to Walmart, I always tell her, you call it work, but I call it justice. That's what I tell her. She gets mad at me, obviously. Or sometimes I'll call it penance. But either way, it works. You know. I tell her, you drive 11 minutes through the country to get to Walmart. I had to sit on a filthy train where bums, you know, were sitting there. Before I got there, and believe me, I can't describe the rest of it because it would disgust you. But believe me, in a city, a big city, all kinds of crazy stuff could happen. So anyways, let's look at this sheet. Now, let me show you what we got here. I doctored one up for you as of July 1st. Okay, and there's a blank. And you can say to yourself, I'll just use Steve's, and that's fine. You could copy it. That's why I gave you a blank, too. Okay, so you can copy it and use it. It looks like something you'd have to bring to the VEC if you get an unemployment, right, to prove you've been looking for a job. Please don't think that way. This is your tool. And you notice the first column says what? What's the title of the first column? Lead. You see? It doesn't say opportunity, it says lead. Now what's my goal? The first thing I need to do is get leads. I have to fill up at least 10, there's 14 on a page. I think there's 14. They might change now. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, 14 on a page. I need at least 10 of these pages full of leads before I really get into the job search. Why? Because the more leads you have, the more power you have. If I said you have to pick the phone and start calling these people, and you only had 2 on the page, you're going to be able to lift that phone up? No. Because you're like, what if they say no? And then the next one says, no, I got nothing. Here's what I want you to do by your telephone or using your cell phone for this. Take a business card and just write this word. And always take it out and look at it while you're making your phone call. And if somebody gives you a hard time on the phone, you say, listen, I'm sorry, it's probably not a good day to deal with. Click, because I got 10 of these, 10 pages. I got 140 at least And I could just, as soon as I hang up the phone, I could just shout, next! Who's next? Next! And that steals you from worrying about taking it personal when you get rejection, right? Now, I know the first phone call is going to be real hard. We'll talk about that in a minute, how we process this. First phone call, your phone's going to weigh 10,000 pounds, right? You have to pick it up to dial it, and you're like this. You just can't get it off the table. But just get a shovel under it, or a crowbar. Just wrench it off the table somehow, make that first call, dive in. It's like cold water in a pool. And guess what? After you make the first, the second, and the third one, after that, you'll be a goddess. Take my word. You'll be doing it. You're like, hand me the phone, I'll do it. You'll be doing it for other people. I'll get you a job. Hand me the telephone. Right? Because once you get that emotional aspect out of the way, the hard part, and you realize that when you hang up the phone, you don't need stitches. You know what I'm saying? When the phone's hung up, you're still alive, you're still breathing. Then you say, okay, this is a joke, I could do this. You have to get to the second or third one. So going past the first one's the hard part. But we'll talk about phone calls in a minute. Look at this sheet. Now, I doctored this up as of July 1st, and let me tell you what happened here. Now, I'm going to talk about the negatives. I'm going to talk about everything here from the negative standpoint, because everything I'm telling you to do has a very low success rate. So volume is the key. I had a guy call me this week, and he's a felon, so he's got background issues, talking about trying to get a job at Walmart. He's going on and on about all the effort he put in, 2 interviews, and then they gave him his background check, and he already told me on and on and on and on. I said, listen. And I talked about the 60-day thing. I go back in 60 days. I says, I know they told you they can't take us a background check, but check and see if you're still a viable candidate. Go back on the 61st day, and I told him what to do. And then Walmart, what you have to do is you got to talk to the store manager. No other managers, because I don't know if you know the way Walmart works, is the way Walmart's work is this. You got the store manager, and King store manager, right? Or Queen store manager. Old Forest Road is Carmen's store manager there, so this could be a woman too. And then you got down here, everybody else. I know there's other people in the store called managers, but they're everybody else. It's just one manager and everybody else. So if you want a job at Walmart, you go to the kiosk, you do the whole nonsense there. By the way, when you answer the questions, they give you the customer service test? Here's the key there too. Don't answer the questions where it would be good for the customer. That's what you would think. Answer the questions so it's good for Walmart, and you will get the job. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for you to answer the questions to be good to the customers. I was teaching up until last week, and I keep trying to quit that job, but Mr. Baker over at National won't let me quit. But I hope that I just can't do it anymore. But I taught at National for a long time. But I had a student once come in and talk to me. We were talking about customer service. And I said to him, what is the hallmark of a good business? He said, customer service. No. I said, nope. I said, it's the perception of customer service. That's good business. Because think about this. I says, you can go to work tomorrow, open up the warehouse doors, and tell all your customers, take whatever you like. That'd be awesome customer service, right? I said, can you do that? He says, no. I said, that's right. I said, but you have to make them think you're doing that. That's the key. So the hallmark of a good business is perception of customer service. I used to sell cars, and I had one girl come in once, and she thought that if she stayed there long enough, I'd give her the car for free. We just keep going down, negotiating down to zero. And at one point I told her, I says, my dear, I'm done. That's it. That's the price. Okay, I can't go any. I really, literally can't go any further. I says, don't think you can keep going forever. And I'll give you. I says, we have to cover the cost of the car and make a profit. That's the practical issue. I don't know why I have to reveal that to you. You know what I'm saying? But I have to say this right out. I have to make a profit. That's what this is. This is a business. Hello? You know what I'm saying? This isn't like the free car charity business. So anyway. So I've been getting leads. That's one place to get leads. Yellow Pages is another place. Let's talk about this. Remember I said relationships are everything here. I'm standing in line at Walmart, right? And the cashier's right here. And I'm just waiting. Of course, there's that old lady still writing a check. It's 2014, still got to write a check. She's been online for 4 hours, but now she starts writing. When the whole thing's over, W, you ever see that? A. My clothes are going out of style, my car's rusting in the parking lot, and it's taken her 4 hours to write that check, and I'm like this, my New York is going on. You just want to strangle her. And use a debit card. Hello, use a debit card. Oh, I know, they told you that on the internet, people steal your identity. Listen, Brain, nobody wants your identity, okay? We're okay. Just use a debit card. And here is the fallacy of it all. Debit cards are the most secure way you can pay for things. When you do a check, that's why you notice now they run the check through the printer and they don't put all your personal junk on it, because checks are so weak. They're the weakest form of payment in terms of security. The check's got your address. I don't know if you people remember years ago if you ever saw this. People used to put their social security number on their checks and their signature. I own you. All I need to do is get a copy of your check and I'm you. But yeah, there she is doing that thing. So you got time. There's the cashier, you don't leave the check, and you're standing. All you do is this. Just turn a quarter turn, look at the candy, because that's what's always in those, on the aisle, right? And just say something out loud. And move your head back and forth. Ah, juice and fruit gum, I haven't seen that in 10 years. What do you think the people in front of you and behind you are going to do in Lynchburg? They're going to start talking to you.
Yeah.
They're going to start a conversation. It's that easy. During the course, and this is all in this on this page. If you turn the page, the text page, all the scripts I'm giving you are here. You don't even have to write them down. During the course of the conversation, to get a lead, you're going to ask 2 questions. That's all you're going to ask. The first question is this. While you're having a nice conversation about the weather, about juicy fruit gum, about Walmart, you're just going to say this. Hey, in a curious way, a naive, curious way, what do you do? They know what you mean when you say, what do you do? What's your job? I'm an engineer at Arriva. Really? Can I ask you a question? Listen, I'm in the process of looking for work. If I want to get a job at Arriva, who would I speak to? Now, there's 2 possibilities here. Well, there's 3. One, they could just brush you off like that. That must be a New Yorker. If they brush you off, they're a New Yorker. Don't bother me, get out of here. But here's the other 2 possibilities. They might say to you, well, you know, what's that? I think Liz Smith, I think is the human resource person there. You talk to Liz Smith, she's the HR person, and you can apply with her. Okay, that's good. Good enough. And I just write down, you know, you people being all women, you have an advantage over me. You can take your bag out and keep this with you all the time. You just take it out of the pocketbook, put down Liz Smith or Riva, and move on. Because we'll get the number. We'll get the number. You can get it. There's easy to get people's telephone numbers. But you got another lead. Now here's what you're really looking for, though. If the person you're talking to says, well, my name is Martha, and I work for Edna in such and such department, and we're looking for people. Why don't you give Edna a call and tell her that I sent you? Oh, now you have gold in your hands. Ha! You notice what just happened now? You have a referral from a stranger that just was online with you at Walmart. You call up Martha and say, Edna told me to call you. Did I get that backwards? Was Edna the HR person? Whatever it was. You call up Martha and say, Edna told me to call you. And she doesn't know you just met Edna in the supermarket, right? She has no idea. You now have clout. You are a step closer. Again, no magic, but you're a step closer than if you just went on the internet and looked for a job and just sent in an application and a resume and then sat by your television going, God, I hope they pick up my application. You know what I'm saying? An anonymous, effortless thing. And what do you get from effortless things? Nothing, right? When you don't put an effort in, you get nothing, right? So here, it's going to require a proactivity. And again, that's a way to get leads too. Which of us does not talk to strangers every day? Which of us? I used to work in the Tarkington building on Memorial Avenue. I go across the street to Foodland, a little supermarket. By the time I got to the cash registers, I talked to 3 strangers. Every day. Every day. And I could have a lengthy, it wasn't just like, hey, how's it going today? Although it was sometimes, right? But then some of them were going to be, well, it's going okay, but my leg hurts. Well, what happened to your leg? Well, I had my knee replaced 10 years ago. Really? How was that? We can go on for hours now with a stranger I never met in my life. And this has happened to me many times, almost like the guy with the ham, right? People assume that you're going to be polite with them here. So it's easy to get into a conversation, easy to know somebody. And through that conversation, I can just say, hey, what do you do? If I were to get a job there, who would I speak to? If I want to get a job there, who would I speak to? Just 2 things. Okay. So that's it on setting up leads. It's getting late. And there are other ways to get leads. I always tell people, if you look in the yellow pages, look for, if you have obstacles in your background, let me just throw this at you. You need to look for the smallest possible businesses. And if you know somebody has this situation, you can teach them this. If you have a felony or a misdemeanor in your background, you have to fish in the right lane. And that is not large corporations. They just have objective rules that say, I can't hire you. They may love you here in Lynchburg, but they can't hire you if you have obstacles in your background. You may have minor obstacles like me, age. You walk in, you got white hair, they're like, oh, forget it. It's an old guy. Don't want to deal with him. Right? That's an obstacle. And you know what I do about that is during the interview, I just throw this out. I say to them, hey, you may think I'm too old for this position, but I gotta be honest with you, I got 30 years experience in this industry. When I start working here on Monday, I bring all the experience to you in this organization. That's a benefit to you in this company. And then I throw in this magic sentence. Makes sense, don't it? And nod my head. Now, what do you think they're gonna say? Yes, they have to, because what I said makes sense. And even if they don't want to agree with me, guess what? I just forced them to. Because they can't say no. What are they gonna say? No, that doesn't make sense? Of course it makes sense. I have 30 years experience. I could walk in here and get started tomorrow. You don't have to teach me. And guess what? I know you'll mess with my brain and pay me the same money you'll pay an inexperienced person. I got that. I'm prepared for that already. So, Look at this piece of paper for me. Let me tell you what I did here and what's happening, mechanically, what's going on. So I started filling this out. I got leads, and I'm going to start doing the work. I said I was going to talk to you about schedule. That's what I started talking about. And I got sidetracked. Let's talk about schedule. Okay, remember I said lives are very complex, especially if you've got kids and family and a significant other with you. You know, you gotta keep your family life moving along. What you do is this: look at your calendar, X off the work you do here, and then look for what I call sacred time, other sacred time. Don't tell me occasionally you don't go home and say, please leave me alone for 4 hours. That never happens to anybody in this room, right? Just leave me alone. I got a chaise lounge in front of my house. I don't know why in front. I just like better laying down and napping in the afternoon in front of my house. I want all my neighbors to see that I'm taking a nap. Well, I got this one from an auction that we had in Concord. The fire department has an auction every year. And it was one of those fake wicker ones, brand new. The cushion was still in the plastic. And I got it for 20 bucks. And then my son rolled over it with his truck. I tried to replace it online, $250. I'm not paying $250 for a chaise lounge. So I was in Walmart last week, the last one, the bottom one. You know, it's like this, it's got stains on it, got bird poop in the corner. And so they still had the paper on the arms. And I said to the kid that works there, listen, you're not going to sell me this for a regular price. That was 65 bucks. No, he says, you could have it for $15. Sold! So now it's sitting in front of my house with the other cushion on it. And I go out there and take my nap. Now, why am I telling you that? I don't remember. But
Sacred time.
sacred time, thank you, that's it. So again, thanks for Shannon's paying attention, good for you. Sacred time. That's my sacred time. I'll come home sometimes and I just have to be horizontal. At 57 years old, believe me, I just got to be horizontal for an hour. So I go out there and I bring my blanket with me so I put it over my face so I don't get burned. And the two dogs, they just like, he's going out to the chaise lounge. They're by the door already because they see the blanket. Ah! As soon as I go out, they're either trying to get on top of me or they're under the chaise for an hour sleeping with me. So again, sacred time. But in this case, what are we going to do? We're going to look for time where we can do the job search. You're going to find sacred time. In other words, you don't have to worry about the kids at that point. The house is quiet or you are not necessary for those hours. And I'm just going to use an example. You may not be able to do this because you guys are working already. But let's say 9 to 12, you figure this out and you converse. You have to communicate with the people in your home and say, by the way, I'm going to set up a schedule, look for a job. You must know that you cannot bother me from 9 to 12 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It could be just 1 to 5 on Monday. You know what I'm saying? And that's good enough, as long as it's sacred and nobody bothers you. And you do a full job search for those 4 hours. And you don't just send out an application and go sit and watch television. Well, I did my job search for the day. No, you didn't. Okay, so you get that sacred time. You set up a schedule. Like I said, I just use this example. It's in the brochure. That's just an example for people that are unemployed. Let's say you guys would have maybe 2 or 3 hours a week, or maybe an hour a night. Sacred time. Just make sure it's time when nobody's going to bother you. You can do a full job search. Of course, it's got to be before 5. I said night. Some of this has to be before 5, but you can't do the job search proactively when other people are home. It's got to be when the people you want to work for are actually in the office, right, or at work. So what are we going to do here? Look at the first one. Here's what happened. Let me explain to you that. Remember I said we're going to talk about negatives because most of this is not going to work. And you got to steel yourself for that. You got to be ready to go for that. You have to be consistent. So they don't mess up your game by being negative to you. So I called this guy Ed Smith at Adams Inc. Okay, on July 1, pardon me. And here's how the conversation goes. That's there too. It's on the second page also. Here's how the conversation goes. Hey Ed, I'm really excited to get on the phone with me. I'm in the process of conducting a job search for permanent long-term employment. And here's the 3 things I want you to say on the phone. I just want to take 5 minutes of your time, come in and introduce myself, and speak to you about, this word is vital, future. Always use that word. Keep that word in your head all the time. I only want to talk to you about future employment. Now, you may want a job yesterday. I got that. Your desperation is our little secret. Ed doesn't need to know that. Why? Because if you say I need a job now and he doesn't have any openings, conversation's over. And what am I trying to do here? What's the goal? To develop what? That's exactly right. See, I want him on the phone as long as possible so he gets to know me. And praise God if he lets me in for that 5 minutes to shake his hand. That's what I really want. Rarely is that going to happen. Remember I said, you got to work with the negatives. It's going to get mostly rejection is what you're going to get. So he's going to say to you what? Being as negative.
I don't have time.
Right, I don't have the time for that. Well, listen, Ed, now you start using weapons at your disposal. You say, Ed, is it all right if I send you a resume? What is he going to say? He's going to get you off the phone if you give the resume. So he's going to say, yes. Yeah, send me a resume. Yeah, send a resume. Yeah, got, send a resume. And you're going to say, well, listen, I just want to make sure you got your address and telephone number right, and I spell your name right, and that's it. And you get off the phone, and you did get out of him. In this case, I got out of him, and I just mocked this up, that he had a possible job opening after August 1st. He did tell me that. So what I would do normally, I didn't do it this time, I put an asterisk, that big one. I have got to keep that relationship going. This guy he told me right out there's a job opening up. So I have to keep that relationship going. Now what's going to happen on this sheet that's most vital is these 4 columns. That's the most important part of the sheet. Follow. You are telling yourself in the future, this is what I have to do. So when Wednesday rolls around, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you get to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday closest to July 15th, you call Ed back. And here's what you're going to say to him. And I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago. You asked me to send you a resume. Make sure that you give him the responsibility for that, because that makes him think he needs to talk to you. You asked me to send you a resume. I'm just checking to see if you had time to look at it. What is he going to say?
No.
No, that's right. Well, listen, Ed, I just want to tell you this. I just want to take 5 minutes of your time. You say this all over again. I just want to come in and introduce myself and speak about future employment with your company. What is he going to say again? No, not the time. Well, let me ask you this question, Ed. See, now I'm just engaging him. You understand? Let me ask you this question. When will you have time to look at my resume? And you know what he's going to say to you? If I'm interested, I'll call you. Right? You ever hear that before? Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to quit yet. I'm going to say, well, let me ask you this question, Ed. I'm in the process of conducting a job search. You know, it's very important to me. I have a lot of appointments scheduled, and I want to go and talk to when I'm talking. Is it okay if I return calls to you every couple of weeks to see what's going on at your company? And folks, if he says yes, that's it. You got him by the throat. It's all over. Once he says yes, because you now have a relationship. And someday you can get in to talk to him. Possible. See what I'm saying? And remember, he also said he's got a job coming up, right? So you want to make sure that you put follow-up again. In the second column, okay, he didn't want to talk to me today, but August 1st, I'm going to call him up. You're going to add that in August 1st. I need to call him on August 1st. I'm telling myself, Steve, in the future, when you come back to this sheet, this is what you have to do. This is the first thing you got to do when you wake up that morning and start doing your job search. This is what you have to do. And I'll do that for every one of these. And like I said, the more you have, the more power you have, the more you can say next. You have to fill it with leads. Now guess what? Job opportunities that you find on Oodle or Indeed or in the News Advance, they're leads. You put them in as leads. Like I said, just make them like 20%. Don't make that your whole thing, but that's a lead too. You can put that down. You know, and you can make a note. You didn't talk to them. You might have just sent an application through an email or something. Just make a note for yourself. You got to know that. You have to control the job search and see what's going on. I love when somebody calls me and they're wondering which job they should take. It's the greatest thing in the world. When somebody says, I got 2 people that want to hire me, I don't know where to go. Oh, isn't that a one? I had a guy once that's felonies call and tell me that. And I'm like, do you understand what conversation we're having? I said to him, imagine a few weeks ago you didn't think you'd ever get a job and they got 2 people that want to hire you. Isn't that awesome? It's just a great feeling. I look at it this way. You just spread the seeds. That's what this is. And eventually, some grow. Flowers come up, right? We're just snipping the flowers. That's all when that happens. I'm just cutting the flowers and making a bouquet. So, anybody have any questions? About your job search? What do you think? Anybody have any experiences? Tell me about a job search. Can I make the assumption that people in here are looking for a job?
Sure.
Okay, good. Does this look like a good program that you can follow? Now remember, you only need a notebook and a piece and a pencil. You don't need this thing that I gave you. This mentality. What's that?
I actually plan to use this with the clients.
Yeah, make as many copies as you right. You got the blanks. That's right. The clients. That's exactly right. Yep. Yeah, I'm going to use it with my clients too. And well, it was exciting being with you guys today, and I appreciate your attention. And it's great to be back at CVCC for at least an hour anyway. Thanks, Jan.
Thanks, Steve.
You bet. My pleasure.